So. Okay. So. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. It is now 3:37. So just to let everybody know, we met in camera today pursuant to section 44(2) and 44(1)B of the Community Safety and Policing Act to discuss matters of a personnel, legal, and confidential nature. And as is our typical practice, under the new CSPA, we meet open meeting, we go in camera early in the day, and we come back out and have a public meeting right there. During the open session of today's meeting, we actually, it was actually quite nice to start our day by awarding Jason Dundas, who is a graduate of the YIPI program, which is the Youth in Policing Initiative, with a scholarship amount of $1,000. And we did a little presentation to him earlier today, so that was fantastic. And now we're going to the substantive portion of the open meeting here. So with that, members, if there's any conflicts of interest, this would be the time to disclose them. Seeing none. Is there any new business that we want to add to the agenda? If so, this would be the time. Seeing none. I would like to, minutes of the previous meeting are in your package. Are there any revisions, deletions, additions, substitutions to the minutes? Right, that would be moved by member Branscombe, second by Vice Chair Walker. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Okay, we are honored, pleased, fortunate, all of the above, to be joined today by Deputy Mayor Sean Lewis and Councillor Elizabeth Pelosa, who are coming on behalf of City Council to speak to us about the LPS Reserve Fund Bylaw Review Staff Report. I will say that there's a couple anxious colleagues here who said they may come at you hard because they don't have the they don't typically get the opportunity to come at you. So come into the hot seat, my friends. So Deputy Mayor Lewis and Councillor Pelosa, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll turn the floor over to you for your report there.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on behalf of council as the city's budget chair and chair of the Strategic Opportunities Review Working Group, here with many hats on, here to talk about and ask for me to have a consideration in regards to the London Police Reserve Fund bylaw. Realizing the Community Safety and Policing Act is silent where it occurs to the budget surplus. Currently, your budget surplus is spent at 5 to 10%. Which is one of the higher ones. The report that is available for you, that's already been submitted, if you wish to circulate, if you have not already seen it, outlines that many are rolling at 3 to 5% range. Peel is primary one that's at 10 to 15. Your current reserve funds, from what finance has reported to us, is well below the 5%. So looking to see if you would have discussion amongst yourselves when appropriate. Looking at just setting that at 5%, 3 to 5, whatever you deem fit. The bylaw was set up collaboratively between London Police and Civic Administration, and we value that very much. And it is our intention to do any unilateral decisions. That is a decision that lies here as a collaborative conversation. I'll also note that within the report that London Police in Barrie exceeded their reserve fund balance and did return that surplus to the city to be dealt with as per their reserve fund balance policies. That has not happened here yet, and the current bylaw simply reads that will be a discussion should you ever exceed whatever your cap is with Civic Administration. So happy to take or field any questions. I do enjoy the hot seat today. Anything to add, Mayor?
I think we would just add to that. We recognize that this board and this service has used its reserves very responsibly in the past. We appreciate that, particularly during the pandemic, the reserves were used to accommodate some shortfalls that were needed, and rather than coming to the taxpayer and asking London to increase its property taxes to cover those. So we really appreciate it that it has been used responsibly. We recognize that there is not a large balance sitting there right now in any case, but we do hope that the board will consider, as it reviews its bylaws, it might set a new target range and work with the city on that. We are having this discussion with a number of our boards and commissions. This is arising out of the Strategic Opportunities Review Working Group that the mayor struck earlier this year. And I guess the only other thing I would add, in terms of being in the hot seat is if you don't already have it in your bylaws, you might want to suggest limiting speakers' times to 5 minutes per item. There's at least one member of your board who gets a lot of lenience in chair's timing in committee meetings and regularly exceeds his 5 minutes. So you might want to consider adjusting that bylaw as well from a procedural standpoint. But yes, we're just here on behalf of the working group. We were asked to come and delegate to you. And so we're making that request for you to consider it and hope that it'll be received for some future consideration, and that whatever decision that the board arrives at, that you'll communicate that back to us when appropriate. We recognize this is not a situation where you have a surplus anyway, so it's not a high priority item, but it would be an item that council would request you consider. And yeah, we're here to take any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lewis. So, members, any questions for either Councillor Pelosi or Deputy Mayor Lewis? Member Morgan.
So I, as a member of the Police Services Board, I'll just make some comments. But first off, I don't have any issue whatsoever with the board reviewing the reserve fund target range. I think these are things that are set at a variety of levels across the province. And I think a regular review of our policies and structures to see what's the most appropriate level and target range is a responsible thing to do. So, at the time when the board wants to make a decision on that, we can, the suggested approach that I would say is we would get some advice back from our staff to say, take a look at this, let's do our own environmental scan, let's see what target range makes the most sense. I will say I agree with what the deputy mayor said. I think the board has used its reserve fund in a very responsible way over the years. And that reserve fund as a stabilization is an important part of the operations so that we don't come back to city council in the surplus deficit kind of policy or through council process to say, hey, we're short 3 million, we need you to cover. In fact, last year, this board actually used that reserve fund to cover $3.5 million, which otherwise in previous years would have just gone to council and said, hey, you've got a surplus, we need 3.5 million to balance our books. That has put our stabilization reserve at a very low level, and I'm not sure if the two councilors are aware of the actual report on the agenda, but there's a motion today that will come forward that I'm very supportive of, to use essentially the remaining balance in that to return it to the city to help with tax mitigation, which I know is a priority of council. So that'll be a discussion that we'll have after. That'll essentially take the reserve fund to zero. So you'll see us use future surpluses to replenish that and put us in a position to make those decisions in the future. But as for how much that reserve fund is, I'm very supportive, and I'm interested in what my colleagues think about having a review at this level to say, let's see what the appropriate percentage balance is and target range is. Let's align that. And I will say, given our actions that we have the opportunity to take later today, I think you should expect that we're going to use the opportunity once we have stable reserves to look at returning any sort of savings or operational efficiencies we can find to the city and taxpayers. It'll obviously be a decision we have to make at the time based on our future needs, but that's essentially, what the reserve fund balance is. It's what I know the city expects of other boards and commissions. You have a balance, you set a target, you stabilize yourself, so you're not coming back and forth. But after that point, you got to think about, did you have too much budget to define enough efficiencies that you can then make some good decisions to return that back to the appropriate funding, whether it's the city or other funders across the province for different board sector ones. So I'm interested in my colleagues' perspectives on this, but I don't think that for us is anything that I wouldn't think we want to look into anyways, and ensure that we are reviewing that target, that reserve fund range target that we have. I will say the original target did come, as you know, from a discussion with the city once upon a time, but I don't think it's been adjusted in any good for years. So.
Thank you, Member Morgan. I'll look over to Member Laitman, followed by Member Goss.
Thank you, and just want to say thank you to the deputy mayor for pointing out that we didn't put you on the 5-minute clock like you do in council, not with all delegations. Like was budget chair was deputy mayor. I wear a number of hats on the same committee that budget chairs as well. But as the mayor said, I wear my police board hat with these questions. So I'm going to say this. First of all, the reserve fund that we did have here proved necessary when we had a once in a lifetime event like COVID. And we see the, the drawdowns that had to be done to respond to that. So I understand the need for a reserve fund, but these are for extraordinary times. I think a review is, I have no trouble with doing a review. I think it's timely, for sure. My question is that the city prides itself on their AAA credit rating with Moody's, and I would imagine in that conversation, they look at reserve funds with the city. Do they look at the reserves funds, especially for one of the biggest line items the city has? Would they look at the police or its reserve targets or reserve fund amounts when they're determining that credit rating?
I'm not aware of that. It could be a question, as I'm not the one who meets with Moody's. I'm not sure if the mayor with his LPS board hat would know. Though if it's not known today, I'm happy to get information back and provide to the board. I would say one of the neat things about this board is you have a reserve fund, whereas the city has multiple reserve funds delegated for different things, whereas the police just has one.
And I will add to that, Member Lehman, that certainly, because I did have the scariest meeting of my life last year in representing the city with our credit rating review at Moody's. That was a little more intimidating than a council meeting. However, they certainly look at the targets for reserve funds as well as our ability to address debt servicing and having a policy on the books that allows us to address opportunities to reduce our debt carryings. It is something that affects that credit rating, which is one of the reasons why we have our own surplus policies at the city that allocate 50% towards debt reduction. So in terms of having sufficient reserve funds, as you know, the other 50% goes into reserve funds. So that does impact how Moody's looks at the city's overall credit rating. And certainly if the mayor has anything to add to that, he's done a few more of those than I have, so.
Before I go to member Goss, I'm going to member Morgan just first, or?
I'll just add some context for the member. What Moody's looks for is not necessarily the reserve fund levels for all the boards and commissions, but the city's actual liquidity, of which it uses the reserve funds to fund short-term fluctuations in its cash flow position. And so given the size of the city's reserve funds, the fact that we have multiple, the boards and commissions reserve funds would be a very, very small portion of that generally. The city's reserve funds would dwarf that, given the unfunded liabilities and the other components that they have reserve funds for, as well as the infrastructure and the infrastructure gap and the other pieces that we have. So I don't want to say it wouldn't matter, but it would be at like a very tiny amount when you're talking about the city having reserve funds in the hundreds of billions. Of reserve funds that the Police Services Board is holding, that is maybe the difference between 4 and 7 million. It's not going to make a big impact on the Moody's rating, in my opinion.
Yeah, Paul.
One more question. Given that you're asking us to look at our reserve fund targets, is the city doing the same thing internally with your own reserve fund targets?
Yeah, I'd say a fair question. I spoke to Mr. Murray this morning, asking to see where our targets are at. It varies based on the individual reserve fund, what it's trying to address, and realize that the city still has about a 3.3% infrastructure reserve gap ourselves that we're trying to address.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, member Goss.
Thank you, through your chair. I would say that the request is extremely reasonable. It's good fiscal management. It's prudent to review our policies. I'm not ready to make a decision today, nor do I think you're asking for that. As Member Morgan said, we have really good staff who are in this room that I would like to chat with about this, as well as our senior command as well, and get some more information. But I think that's something that should be looked at. Exactly how we benchmark. I think it goes into the Big 12, the other police agencies as well. I think this is prudent for you guys to be doing this right now. I know that the city is very cognizant of the tax levy and the burden that's being placed on the taxpayer. So we completely understand that here as one of the larger budgets that you deal with. As you know, I do want to take a moment to thank Budget Chair Pelosa and Deputy Mayor Lewis, who've always been there to engage on this and have difficult conversations sometimes and teach as well when the budget process was happening. So thank you for that. But I think that, like I said, it's prudent fiscal management, which we've always been committed to. And as the sorry, I want to call him the mayor. I can't call him the mayor here. So as Member Morgan had said before too, we're coming forward with a report in public session that talks to these items. It's consistent and constant review that we'll be doing. So with this ask, I think that it's very reasonable for us to be doing that at the same time. And it's something we should be looking at annually moving forward also. I did want to ask, do you have a timeline on this, when you would like an answer by? You said in due course, and when is reasonable to you that you would like to see something back from this board?
Say due course, realizing your reserve fund isn't near the top, that it's just really the review for the public knows that these conversations are happening of potentially when the date comes that everyone's replenished. The budget conversations are always ongoing, as is the work of the review working group. I did say to council, because that was a question there, how are we gonna find out that you've had these conversations, what the outcome was? And I did promise to report back to council when one is available. So when a decision is made in this space, it'd be forwarded to council. And I will just simply report out to council in the meantime that we've been invited, received us, we presented, and you will consider it in due course and provide a reply once available.
Follow-up, sure. Thank you. To Deputy Mayor Lewis, you had mentioned that you've gone to see other boards and commissions in the city as well. And by all means, Budget Chair Pelosi, you can take this to whoever wants to answer it. But has there been any feedback from those commissions as of yet? Are they currently in the review stage? Have you received any communication on those from them as of yet?
So I'll start, and then if Budget Chair Pelosi wants to add anything, certainly pass it over to her. Obviously, a couple of the other hats that I wear would be London Middlesex Community Housing, Tourism London, and where we are starting with those is that they are going to be taking training with regard to the service review option that the mayor offered through the SWORD to undertake the same service review training that our internal divisions of the city do. Last year, that service review resulted in an annualized ongoing savings for the city of approximately $10 million a year. That was not really well highlighted in our own budget, but that's going to be separated out a little more clearly, I think, for the public to see this year. So they're going to undertake the training of that that's being offered first so that they can go through and right size their own budget. And part of that right sizing will include adjusting where their reserve funds would be. I can tell you from a London Middlesex Community Housing perspective, much like LPS, there's not a lot of money sitting in the bank because we have been spending it all to get repairs done to buildings. Things like new HVAC units, new elevator components are not particularly cheap. So the work in retrofitting our buildings as quickly as possible has continued. Tourism London is a little more flexible because they're somewhat more of an entity of the city itself. And they also have the benefit of the municipal accommodation tax to do some of their funding. So that's being looked at from their perspective as well. So those conversations are starting. And that includes, as the budget chair mentioned, with inside City Hall, in addition to the annual service reviews going on, conversations are happening with staff as well, not just about right sizing reserve funds, but also in right sizing the budget so that the annual surpluses, frankly, are much more reflective of what actually needed to be spent rather than allocating money that is then returned at the end of the year as a surplus. So it's an ongoing process as we try and find some ways to right size budgets right across the board.
Thank you for that clarification.
As the budget chair, I'd say, without ruining anything of the mayor's budget release at the end of the month, that works with the agency boards and commissions to address
I'm curious.
their infrastructure gap, realizing how the city carries theirs versus how other people want to address theirs, of just trying to keep us in alignment to make it easier to address the public of we're going the same direction with the same metrics that we're using. The city also, some of the budget surplus was due to revenue on investments, and performing really well and trying to address that going forward. It's like, oh, you have surplus. It's like, well, so much our investments did well. So just finding a way to address that going forward. In the next budget update, we'll have the savings of its own business case for Londoners can clearly see what staff have done in the past. Last budget, we just assumed they'd want it and all council would want the savings, which we did. Just when we didn't highlight it, it was placed over in the media and they didn't see the good work that staff was doing behind the scenes.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward.
Well, and I would just add, Member Goss, that we hope that you might have some acquaintances in Ottawa next week who will be changing an interest rate number that will affect our investment revenue next year too. So doing
I
it
have to put this on the record. As you know, Bank of Canada is arm's length, and we have nothing to do about their interest rate decision, but I don't, but I will say, thanks for bringing this forward. I appreciate you coming here and know I'm committed as a member. I'll speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure I speak for my colleagues when I say we're always committed to look everywhere we can and be as fiscally prudent as possible, while never sacrificing on safety of Londoners, because that's something that we won't sacrifice on. This is a very reasonable and logical request. So thank you.
Well, and if I can just add, Chair, we didn't set a date on this in particular as well, because we recognize that this board and this force has a number of very pressing items that you were working on around community safety. And we don't want to bump something that's a high priority item off to the side of the desk while you undertake this work. So we recognize you need to prioritize, and we want to leave the scheduling flexible so that you can deal with this as your agendas allow, because we do recognize that there are some higher priority matters that you'd have to deal with in regards to the operations of this police service for the well-being of Londoners. So I just wanted to share that being one of the reasons we did not put a time frame on this. Obviously, you know, if there's an opportunity at the end of the Q4 of this year or the beginning of or the end of Q1 of next year, that's always great, but we didn't want to set a hard target for you on that because you do have other items to deal with, and we recognize that. And I think that this is an opportune moment to say we also want to thank the board for supporting the chief's appearance at SPPC recently, where he was able to share some statistics and updates with council. I will say personally that I think it was incredibly valuable to have that information shared with council. Certainly, I know a number of our colleagues have been sharing that information with the residents at large as well. So I want to take the opportunity to also thank you for making the chief available to answer those questions in chambers, because it was, from my perspective, very helpful.
Thank you. We'd like to thank the excellent chair of that particular meeting.
And Chair.
Vice Chair Walker.
First of all, thank you so much for coming and presenting a soft approach to what you're looking for. I appreciate it. I also want you to know how much I value the relationship between the city and city council and the board. It's absolutely important to us, and I can speak for everybody here to say we really value it. So thank you so much for that. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the large budget that we received from the city and how grateful we are for that. And you heard from the chief about some of the initiatives that are already underway as a result of that. And we want to be there to support you in ensuring that any extras we have will come back to you as you requested. And I am certain there will be some areas that we can pull from that and send your way. But mostly I just want to say that it has been a great relationship since I've been on the board with the city. And that's how we get the job done. And that's, I think, how we are able to accommodate the needs of all of our residents, because, you know, the client needs are the same. Who you are representing and who we are representing in many cases is the same. So it is a partnership, and that's really important. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Walker. Any last questions for Budget Chair Pelosa or Deputy Mayor Lewis with regards to this?
I'll move receipt of the request, and that the board will review and respond in due course.
Thank you. So motion to receive for information purposes, is moved by Member Goss, seconded by Member Branscombe. Any last debate discussion?
Can I just say?
Yeah.
Because motion to receive means something a little different in council. Sometimes it means we're not doing anything. Just to be clear,
I want to receive it and we are going to talk
We're
about
actually
it.
going to do something. We will get back to you. We're going to review it. It just, the motions sound a little different. We support it. So don't go back to the. I declare.
We will accept the report. How about this? I will move to accept the report and we will review and respond in due
Yes.
course.
We're
That
not fluent in 300 different talks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's okay. Receive is what we normally do with Councillor Lehman's motion.
Let's make sure that's reflected in the minutes. Okay?
Sometimes take no action.
Right here. Yeah. So, yeah, no one was opposed to the two.
You need a second here.
Yeah,
My
three.
second.
Sorry, I thought, so Mr. Branscombe, no one opposed, seeing none, that is carried. Thank you very much to both of you
Thank
for
you.
joining us
Thank you.
today. So. Take this series. Okay, so next on the agenda. We're looking at agenda item number 3, which is we're going to go to Executive Director Johansson for the London Police Service Policy Assessment Report, which is in the package there. I'm going to just momentarily pass this over to Vice Chair Walker for step up.
Okay, so the policy review report. So the board has been very clear with me from the beginning that it's looking to strengthen its governance framework and has asked me to come up with a proposed plan of action regarding reviewing the current policies. So I've drafted this report in response to that. The key reason for this is the new legislation that was implemented on April 1st, the Community Safety and Policing Act. So there's heightened standards on police boards, heightened responsibilities, new policy requirements. So all boards across Ontario are currently, reviewing and revising their policies. So I'm looking for board approval to move forward with this review and also to ensure that we engage with someone externally towards the end of it. I'll be taking on majority of the work, especially with the governance processes, to independently review the relevant policies to make sure that they are in line with legislation, include appropriate EDI and ESG considerations, and enhance the decision-making process. Another recommendation that I've put in here is that I develop a governance manual for the board. So it would act as a guide that outlines the roles, responsibilities, processes, and protocols essential for the effective functioning of the board. So this is going to allow for clarification, introduce standardized procedures in line with best practices in governance, ensure compliance and accountability, support board member onboarding and training, promote transparency and trust, and maintain institutional knowledge. So that is also built into my recommendation for the board, in addition to the policies that govern the operations.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Member Branscombe?
Through you, Chair, to Stephanie, thank you very much for this. This has been sorely needed, as we've discussed many times. We had a lot of very urgent and imminent decisions that we had to make and deal with since I came on the board. There wasn't really any time to turn our attention towards some of these sort of, fundamentals. And it's always been really clear that some of the policies are outdated, that we don't have there's no kind of succession plan, like, every new board members come, it's kind of hit and miss if you get the proper training. I think it coincides nicely with the new act, and I think the timing couldn't be better because we've got most of that water under the bridge now, and we can devote our time to this. So I think it's very timely, it's very necessary, and I thank you for the report. I support it.
Member Ross?
Thank you, through your chair. I also will support this report. I really want to draw your attention to point 4 and page 1. The London Police Service Board engage an external consultant to independently assess and verify the updated policies to ensure, and then all the sub points under. I think this is a crucially important point. And Member Stevenson and I were out in Halifax for the Canadian Association of Police Governance Conference, and we intently listen to a panel about this very topic and talking about how they had independent reviews on their policies that found holes and brought a different lens to it and really kind of made sure that it didn't bite them down the road. And I think this is so important and something that I'm really going to press for moving forward in various things on bring outside lenses to the table to advise us on certain policies and procedures. I think it's from a governance perspective, I think it's very important. So that is key, because when I see the new policy, then we'll also want to know what the outside reviewer, whoever that is determined to be, comes back with, so that we can get to the best place possible. But to echo member Branscome's comments, I think we've been living in the past for too long. I think we've been operating above our weight class, but with supports below our weight class. And I think that we, both from a governance, structural, staffing perspective, we've always done more with less. And we can't just keep accepting the status quo. We need to make sure that we are representing a big city police service that is in the Big 12, with a chief that has put a new vision in place and a new service delivery model that is delivering for Londoners. Because I can speak for myself, and what I hear time and time again, whether I'm buying bananas at the grocery store, it's a true story, or I'm walking downtown, I hear from people that know I'm on the board that the police service, they're seeing the changes, they're seeing the positive changes, and that trust is being rebuilt from years of underinvestment and maybe taking our eye off the ball. We're now seeing a police service that is again getting in the business of delivering a service and public safety for Londoners. We still have a lot of work to do, so it's going to take a lot of time, but these things are imperative that we get in place as soon as possible. So I'll fully support.
Thank you, Member Goss. Any further debate, discussion, questions with regards to the report?
I'll move it.
Okay, it is a long motion that I have to read out loud just because it's one motion with 4 parts, so I apologize in advance for everybody. I just gotta read it. So, Nancy, Member Branscombe, here's what you're moving. That the London Police Service Board Executive Director develop a board governance manual that outlines the roles, responsibilities, processes, protocols essential for the effective function of the board. Number 2, that the London Police Service Board conduct a review of its existing policies and adequacy standards to ensure compliance with Section 38 of the CSPA. Number 3, that the London Police Service Board revise or establish relevant policies and procedures based on the outcome of the review and consideration of the CSPA, the public safety needs of the community, and the effective functioning of LPS. And finally, number 4, because 5 different parts, the London Police Service Board engage an external consultant to independently assess and verify the updated policies to ensure that they A, align with the current legal frameworks and ethical standards, B, enhance transparency, accountability, and decision-making processes, C, align with relevant environmental, social, governance standards, D, promote equity, diversity, and inclusion in all practices and procedures, E, ensure accountability and inclusivity for all stakeholders, F, foster a culture of continuous improvement and innovation.
That's it.
That's it? Member Branscombe. Moved, thank you. Second by Member Goss. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you kindly, appreciate that. So. Moving on in the agenda, we are now at agenda item number 4, which is update on operating capital budget report. And I will look over to Deputy Chief McSween for that. Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Chair Chapark. Each year, the London Police Service Board has the opportunity to update City Council on budget adjustments. For the 2025 update, LPS administration has reviewed the current financial pressures and recognized that a strategic approach is crucial to sustain service delivery without placing an excessive burden on taxpayers. It is recommended that the London Police Service Board approve a strategic drawdown of $850,000 from the London Police Service Reserve Fund, which will effectively reduce the net impact of the 2025 operating budget to $181,693,679. This adjustment is designed to alleviate the burden on the tax levy while ensuring that essential services remain intact amid ongoing financial pressures. In addition, the board should confirm the operating budget's amounts for 2026 and 2027, respectively, with set at $192 million and $208, respectfully, with the commitment to explore further budget reductions as part of the annual budget update process. Furthermore, the proposed capital budget forecast for the 2034 amounts to $16,821,559, emphasizing a commitment to maintaining critical infrastructure and technology. This budget will support essential projects, including vehicle replacements, major repairs at headquarters, and technology upgrades necessary for effective operations. Overall, this financial strategy not only aims to mitigate the tax levy impact, but also ensures prudent management of public resources. By prioritizing these adjustments, the London Police Service is reinforcing its dedication to meeting the evolving needs of the community while maintaining operational effectiveness and sustainability. Additionally, the LPS administration will continue to engage with stakeholders to assess future needs and opportunities for cost-saving measures, ensuring that the London Police Service remains responsive and effective in serving the public. This comprehensive approach underlines the board's commitment to fiscal responsibility and strategic planning and evolving change challenges. Pending any questions, it's recommended that the board approve the motions outlined in the memo. And I will just also add Director Graham is in the room if I'll defer to her if there's any questions that are best suited to answer by her. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Members, any questions for Deputy Chief? I'll look over to you and start with Member Morgan.
Less a question, more comments. I don't know if, what questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. First off, as a board member, I'd be happy to move it, but I think given I get to table the budget as mayor, I'd be happy to second this if another board member wants to move it.
Got them all.
Everybody wants to do it.
Okay, well, let's go. I saw Member Lehman's hand up first, so we'll go Member Lehman, seconded by Member Morgan.
Yeah, so I want to say a couple things. So sitting as a board member, there's something really critical that was said in the outline in the report that has me get enthusiastically behind this. And that is, the goal is to recognize some pressure on our main funder and reduce the tax levy while preserving essential services. I think it's absolutely critical that we continue to be able to deliver on the plan that we have promised the public we'll be able to do to achieve the operational goals that we know are important for public safety in this community. While at the same time, each and every day, look for savings and ways to do things a little more efficient. And so it is critical to me that we are not reducing or compromising a critical operational plan that administration and the board has supported. But there's another part of this report that I think is really critical too. While this is a one-time drawdown in 2025, this is from the report, LPS administration will continue to review and explore opportunities for additional budget reductions in preparation for the 2026 and 2027 budget update. For me, this is exactly the expectation that I think every board and commission should have of its fiscal management of public taxpayer dollars. We need to ask for money. We need to design an operational plan. We need to meet those commitments that the operational plan funds. But each and every day, we need to try to find ways to do things more efficiently. We need to try to drive savings, and we need to find a way to do the same thing for less money and be as fiscally responsible as possible. I speak as a member here, but I'm going to briefly step out of that and just say, as someone who gets to table the budget, I will say the board's intent here to fund a reduction in the tax levy is exactly how I will put it in the budget. This will be put in as a tax levy reduction into the table budget should the board approve this today, and that'll be tabled later this month. I would also say it's the same exact expectation that I have with every other board and commission. The leadership that the administration and the board with their support will show in continuing to do this over the years is exactly what we expect of other boards and commissions with the public tax dollars that we give them as well. And I will say it is a commitment that the city has embraced going back all the way to 2016. And even before that, when Member Branscombe sat on the Service Review Committee in the late 2000s. Yeah. We established so based on the work of that, we established a new service review process in 2016. And that service review process at the city has led to hundreds, and I'm not making that number up, hundreds of millions of dollars of savings. $40 million net has been carved out of municipal budgets since we started service review, but that gets magnified because each and every year you save it forever, right? So we're up well over $200 million that we have avoided without service reductions or not delivering on council's strategic plan. And that is because of a robust service review project that is a process that is ongoing and is working towards achieving operational goals while trying to find more efficient ways of doing things. So I applaud the leadership that's shown here. It's exactly what I think we should expect from a public institution, and I'm really proud of the administration and this board for considering going down this direction and the commitment to the future of moving towards doing this each and every day as we steward taxpayer dollars. I will also say, and maybe this is a bit of a spoiler for my own budget, this supports the direction the budget's going. It's not going up. So the projections that we have in the multi-year budget, the table budget will be less than that. And this will help support it moving in that direction. And so this is a good move by the Police Services Board to support an overall larger strategic direction that the city needs to move in to try and find efficiencies within the budget process while deliver on the critical services that we know we have, both within the police services, but across the city and other services as well. So I appreciate what's going on here, and I appreciate the report in front of us. I think it's very clear and very very good leadership. The other thing I'll mention is I really think it's really important for the police and the administration to take a look at what council has offered. The deputy mayor mentioned we have decided to fund ourselves for every boarding commitment across the city. Anybody who would like to come to get some service review training, whether you've done service review training or not, having a refresher, networking with other colleagues across the city who are engaging in that space. We've opened it up. There are sessions in November, and I can ensure this board and this administration will get an invitation to send as many members as they'd like to that. They're both in-person and online spaces. There are lots of boards and commissions who are going to participate in that. That doesn't mean there's an expectation that you're going to find a certain amount of dollars, but we just felt that the city, it was important for us to step up and say, if we want people to do service reviews, we should step up and pay for the training of staff across the city to do that. And council has supported that. That is going to happen. And I would strongly encourage administration and the board to support administration in taking advantage of that opportunity. I think it'll be a good one, and it'll be there's a great session that the treasurer has designed, which we actually contracted out to professionals to provide. So with that, I'll leave my comments at that and just thank you again for your leadership on this, and look forward to my fellow colleagues on the board's comments.
Thank you, Member Morgan. Looking over to you, Member Lehman.
Thank you. And yeah, I'll second this motion. And there's a couple of reasons as a board member that I will.
You move it now.
You're moving
Oh,
on.
I'm moving the motion.
Yeah, I'm second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Well, happy to move. There's more important one. Two reasons. First of all, and the mayor did touch on that. I'm doing this with the confidence that this will go to a tax levy reduction. Not that it'll just go into escapes into the Netherlands. This is important by this board. The second reason is that I'm confident that this will not impact our service plans. Chief, you and your deputies have made it very clear where you want to take policing in the next 4 years, and the 4-year budget represented that. It was well debated within this board and our council, and I will not support any direction or wavering away from those goals that were stated to the public at that time. With that being said, I think it's also incumbent upon this board to find ways to be efficient in delivering services as possible. As I think on every board, and same with City Hall. And I don't think those are mutually exclusive. I think you can be very proactive in taking police in a dynamic new direction to provide, at the end of the day, the ultimate goal, increased public safety for Londoners, at the same time respecting and proper stewards of the purse. And I think that's why I like the second part of this motion, which is continuing to look at not stopping here, but continuing in the years to come to find efficiencies in how we deliver those services. So I think we can do both, but not for sure not sacrifice those goals intended by the administration and by the board. So happy to second it.
Okay, so thank you, Member Lehman is the motion, and Member Morgan is seconded. Next on the list is Member Phelps.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I will be supporting the motion. One big reason is because it is going directly towards the tax levy. I think that is, for me, that's everything. Again, acknowledging that we have one taxpayer and we're trying to do our part. That being said, I want to be crystal clear. I'll always look for savings, but I said this with the deputy mayor and Councillor Polo, the budget chair in the room. I won't sacrifice on public safety, not 1 cent. And I'm very happy to hear Member Morgan and Member Lehman's unwavering commitment to that as well, because I think at the end of the day, we have an administration led by our chief that has set out a bold vision for public safety in the city about delivering on public safety to make London safer. It's not safe enough. we need to make it a safer city. And these investments are not just pulled out of the sky. They are strategic, and this is a long-term plan to get this organization back on track. So while I support going into the tax levy, I will say that this is now the second time that we have been prudent with our reserves. Last year, we took millions out of our reserves so that we did not have to come back to the taxpayer. And said, well, hold on a second, we had recommendations, and we said, no, we're gonna fund that in-house. So this is the second time that this iteration of the board has shown our willingness to do that. So we will always be fiscally prudent on that. I can't commit that I'm necessarily gonna vote for something like this next year. Again, I think this will be on a case-by-case basis. To Member Morgan's point, it's just good fiduciary responsibility to constantly be reviewing how you do business. But right now, we have this ability. It makes sense. It's helpful to London. So I'm happy to do it. And I think that it's a recurring narrative, but as long as public safety is still at the forefront and we're not sacrificing that, then it's simply a no-brainer. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Voss. Any other question? Yeah, Member Anscombe.
I just really quickly, back in the day, when service review was around, I was a pretty big budget hawk on the police budget. I once called it a black hole. So I've come a long way because of the openness and transparency of the administration for one thing. The fact that now I'm on the board, it became pretty clear where we were in terms of being able to provide a modern police service in a safe city. We were in pretty big trouble, I think. So by having the board bash around this budget, very large budget, I think we set ourselves on an excellent course to have a safer city, modern police force, where we need to be in terms of where policing is going nowadays. And I'm always going to be one of the ones that wants to look for efficiencies, and so I can't say what'll happen next year or the year after. I guess we'll see where it goes, but I think, we're probably gonna have a finance committee set up on the board that have to have regular reviews as well. Because that openness and transparency is a big difference now to me from when I was on council. That was kind of like, well, you don't need to know that, you just need to pay the bills. And that never sat very well with me. So I'm very happy that we have an administrative team and a board that has that openness and accountability and transparency to the public and certainly to the taxpayers. And as long as that continues, this is going to work out very well for everybody. So I'm happy to support this and do our bit.
Thank you, Member Branscombe. Member Stevenson.
Thank you. I'm just going to be short because I agree with everything that my fellow members have said on this. We have a safety crisis in our city and people are really feeling it. That is number one. But second is the financial pain that so many people are feeling as well. And so we're always going to keep that eye open to efficiencies, as we're said, and handing back whatever we can, knowing that we're not willing to sacrifice the main cause, but there will always be that willingness to keep, honor and respect the trust that we've been given with the budget that we gratefully received.
Thank you, Member Stevenson. Last word goes to Vice Chair Walker.
Well, almost everything has been said. In fact, everything has been said. But I do want to just say that for me, the priority remains on creating a safe city now and making sure that communities and women and children and men and everybody in this community, this wonderful community we live in, can be safe, walking in their neighborhoods, going to the movie theater, and all of those things that we want to do, as citizens of our community. And I think that is what we are accomplishing. And I'm very grateful for everybody who's, contributes so much to create a safe city. And certainly the money that we've talked about today does not take away from that. And if it did, we likely wouldn't have supported it. So I am appreciative to everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Walker. Chair doesn't typically ask questions or weigh into debate, but if he did, he would say what everybody just said. Exactly. So Okay, bear with me again. It's because it's a public meeting and not everybody has the report in front of them. I do have to read these out here. So the motion that is moved by member Layman, that is seconded by member Morgan, is as follows, that the London Police Service Board approve a drawdown of $850,000 from the London Police Service Reserve Fund for 2025 to reduce the net tax levy funded impact of the London Police Service operating budget for 2025 to $181,693,679. Number two, confirms that the following operating budget amounts for 2026 to 2027 period, with the understanding that the London Police Service Administration will continue to review and explore opportunities for additional budget reductions in preparation for the 2026 and 2027 annual budget update. So 2026 number is $192,463,728, and for 2027, it's $208,075,887. And the last part of the motion is approve the capital budget forecast for 2034 in the amount of $16,821,559. So that's the three parts that were moved by member Layman, seconded by member Morgan. Anyone opposed to that? Seeing none, that is carried unanimously. Perfect. Thank you kindly for that there. And then we have the motion for the second report assessment growth funding submission, which is what you have there in front of you. We're looking for a motion that the London Police Service Board approve the request for assessment growth funding to support the addition of 25 positions for the 2025 year as outlined in the submission. So you have the report in front of you there. That's moved by member Goss, seconded by member Branscombe. Any debate, discussion, questions with regards to same? If not, I'll just call the vote on that. So anyone opposed to that motion that the London Police Service Board approve the request for assessment growth funding to support an addition of 25 positions for 2025? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you, Fiona. All right, moving on in our agenda, we go to agenda item number 5, which is the Crime Stoppers quarterly report, which I'm looking over to you, Deputy Chief Bastine, for that report.
Thank you, and through the chair, I think the biggest takeaway from this very brief report, which you have before you, is that we're starting to see a slight rebound in the number of tips received, arrests and cases cleared, sort of indicating that maybe returning towards pre-COVID totals. We're not there yet, but as you know, the trend has been steadily downward over the past several years. So I think I mentioned last meeting that Crime Stoppers London Middlesex recently regained its status with the handwritten agency as a charitable organization or
CRA.
so that's a very positive thing, and something new that's not included in this report, recent development, is that we'll be participating in a fundraising event hosted by Crime Stoppers, taking place this Saturday on the 19th. We'll have a couple of people there, auxiliaries, people from traffic management, motorcycle, cruiser, usual things to attract attention and increase visibility and engage with the community about the importance of raising the profile of Crime Stoppers and also raise some money for them. Subject to any questions the board may have, that's the report for its receipt.
Where's the fundraiser?
Sure,
Where?
it is at the Pizza Hut at 1300 Wellington Road South. And it is a Crime Stoppers event that we're supporting, but we're supporting as well as I believe West Region OPP will be involved as well.
Thank you. Any further questions for Deputy Chief Bastine with regards to the Crime Stoppers quarterly report?
I'll go for C.
Thank you. That motion is moved by member Goss, seconded by member Branscombe. We're opposed to receiving that. Seeing none, that is carried. Which now, by the way, you got me. Deputy Mayor Lewis, me said receipt. So now it's plugged into my head here. Okay, so. Okay, Deputy Chief Guilford, we're looking at agenda item number 6, which is the Vehicle Pursuits Quarterly Report. What continue, sir?
Thank you, Karen. Through you. This is the vehicle pursuit report for the third quarter of 2024, July through September. No pursuits to report, but of note, We have 33 mobile occurrences, which are alternatives to pursuits out there. From that, charges laid against 25 people, for a total of 89 criminal charges and 2 potential offense notices along with that. So our officers are still out there finding criminal activity, and instead of engaging in pursuits which may be more dangerous to the community, they're finding alternatives to still stop the issue and identify and turn people. That's a report for you, subject to any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Guilford. I know Member Goss has a question. We'll start there.
Yeah, just more points of clarification, if you could, just to help other members of the public understand too. So when you say 33 mobile occurrences, could you just elaborate on that a bit further?
Yeah, and that was what I mentioned. Mobile occurrences is alternatives to pursuit. So instead of
That'd be like
getting
star chase, for example?
that's one of the different methods that we will use for. So yeah, there's certain tactics that we will use that officers are trained in annually to be able to do alternatives to dangerous pursuits, as well as get training for pursuits in case the situation dictates that they need to pursue, and that the safety or that the offense that has been committed outweighs the safety to the public that the pursuit constitutes.
Perfect. And then just on page 2, the test must be performed prior to initiating and continuously throughout a pursuit. At any point, the risk of the public outweighs the need to apprehend an individual or identify the individuals. The pursuit must be terminated. The test helps ensure that a pursuit does not present a greater danger to the public than the circumstances giving rise to it. So can you just go into the test a little bit more? Like that's not just the officer that could be potentially involved in a pursuit. There's more people involved.
There's layers to that, and actually our policy is that that's listening to it can indeed terminate that pursuit. So that's a supervisor, that's a supervisor up in comms, that's another officer out there. We don't want to leave it just to the officer that's involved in a pursuit. They might have blinders on and be wrapped up and not be thinking clearly. So yeah, we have that external lens of somebody not directly involved in that, who can still terminate if they see the danger that other people might not.
Perfect. I think that's an important point for people that might be reading this report to understand. It's not just that person doing the test in their head thinking, what did I learn at OPC or what was I taught, by my training officer. There's multiple people that are involved in that to make sure that both the safety of the public is taken into account, as well as, what is the necessity of this pursuit and making that judgment call. So I think that's an important point. So thank you. That's all, Jay.
Thanks, Member Goss. Okay, so any other questions with regards to the report? Seeing none, we'll just a motion to receive for informational purposes. Okay, I'm gonna give it to Member Layman here. Let's switch the defense right there and go with Member Bransfield. Let's go ahead. So anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried there. Okay, agenda's almost done. Just we're at the point of the agenda where we have chairs updates, executive director updates, and updates from Chief Trump. So I will tell you that real quickly, there's 3 updates, one of which I'm going to defer to Vice Chair Walker. From the chair, we were honored to attend on October 10, 2024 for the swearing in of 15 new constables at RBC Place, joined by Member Goss, Member Layman, Executive Director Johansson, and myself. We're honored to join the chief and his team to swear in 15 constables. The latest batch of new constables that come in, which is great, and it's honest to God, as much as I love board meetings, it's my favorite thing about this job is to see these new constables walk across the stage, see the chief awarding their badge, and to see the incredibly happy parents who I'm not an emotional person, but to see no, I'm really to see. They are. There was a slideshow this time with one of the new constables where they were wearing a police uniform when they were like 3 years old. And then they fast forward, I was like, oh man, so they look fantastic. So and then emotion aside, great to have 15 more members join the service to provide us, try to get us up to the numbers that we need there. So it's fantastic. I don't know when the next one is scheduled, a few months down the road, I believe, but that's great there. On September 29, 2024, we had member Goss join 75 members, I believe it was, of the service up at the Canadian Police Peace Officers Memorial in Ottawa. Or what I believe, Chief, and you may touch upon this in your verbal report, is this the largest contingent that the London Police Service has ever sent out? So which was incredible to show our support up in Ottawa, and to have one of our own member Goss travel up to Ottawa to march. I'll ask you, maybe that's an in-camera thing, how he did with the marching, right? But yeah, so to do that there. So
I didn't trip over Deputy McSween, so we're.
There's a W right there. So thank you to both the service for, for that incredibly large contingent showing there, and for member Goss for representing the board of the Canadian Police and Police Officer Memorial there. The last verbal report, I want to defer over to Vice Chair Walker to talk to us about where we all went today, this afternoon, to the Cheryl Sheldon Memorial Bench dedication. And so Vice Chair Walker, if you could speak to us for a minute or
Thank
two.
you, I really appreciate that. So Cheryl Sheldon is a London woman who was killed by suicide earlier this year. And really there wasn't a lot going on in the community to celebrate her. And so a friend of mine, Fabian Holler, and I got together and decided we would raise money to give her a proper burial in Fitch Bay, which is in Quebec, which is where she's originally from. And also to make sure that she had a bench here in London, Ontario, where her friends, family members, those who knew her could sit and, be at the bench with her. Right, it's near the playground. It's a beautiful setting. And so we did that, and I wanted to just acknowledge there were a lot of people in this community that gave a lot of money to make that happen, and we are so grateful for that. And also just a lot of people who came today. One man came from Windsor to celebrate her life. Her brother and sister-in-law came. And I think, like, for me, it was just quite moving to be with everybody. And it's always, for me, really special to put a call out to the community for something that we need and have them respond so generously. So, and of course, our esteemed mayor spoke beautifully with some really amazing, passionate points, and I really appreciate you. And also, maybe if I could take this opportunity to mention that there was another woman killed this year, Brianna Broadfoot, 17 years old, also killed by femicide, and Tiffany Gates, who was a woman killed last year. So there were 3 femicides in our community over the last year, and it's just, we've got to do more. I feel very strongly we have to do more. And when I look around all the time and see some young girls and young women, I'm aware that those young women and young girls are potential victims of femicide for no other reason than their sex, and that needs to change. But I was grateful to all of you. It just was so meaningful to have you there, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Walker. Yeah, it was great to have the entire board, as well
Yeah,
as
really
Chief
amazing.
Trung and Deputy Guilford, McSween, Steen, and our legal director, McKinnon, as well. It was really nice to have the entire board in.
Awesome. Thank you also.
So, thank you. Before I pass it over to Executive Director Johansson, I'm going to look over to Member Branscombe to give us a Chief Cal update.
So we're up at festival.
Yeah, please.
So thank you. I have two hats I'm wearing today. One is I'm incredibly proud to be involved as one of the organizers for the inaugural Chiefs Gala Appreciation Dinner and Awards Night. That's coming up on January 29th next year at RBC's place, starting at 5 o'clock. So we are going to really recognize our police service and celebrating policing in the community. But the proceeds are also going to Chief's Choice, YOU, Youth Opportunities Unlimited, and the Canadian Mental Health Association. So member Goss and I are on the sponsorship committee, and the sponsorships are starting to come in nicely, so we should have a nice little check to give those two, very deserving organizations. And it'll just be a really fun night to celebrate the police and the good work that the police are doing in our community with the awards. There's a committee looking after that as well. It's going to be an excellent evening, and I think there's been other galas that the police have gone to, some of us have gone to. And it's a big deal in many communities. So thank you, Chief, for bringing it to London, and I'm so honored to be part of it. So if anyone needs any information or they want to sponsor, they can just call me and I'll come and take their check. So not a problem. So that's number one. So that's very exciting in the new year. My other hat is as the chair of the Forest City Film Festival, which launches on opening night on Saturday. And I wanted to draw attention to two specific films, both documentaries. One is called Atrocity, and it's being screened on Sunday, October 20th at 4:30 at Wolf Performance Hall. And it's an unfiltered exploration of homelessness. And there will be a panel. It's called a deep dive. So we have a panel discussion afterward. Retired Police Sergeant Nigel Stuckey is the one who's made this film. And it talks about some of the very pressing issues that we find in our community right at the moment. So I encourage anybody that wants to attend to go on the website and get your tickets. Second performance, or the second documentary, is on Saturday, October 26th at noon at the Wolf Performance Hall, called Dark Highway, and it's about human trafficking in our area. And we have our excellent panelist, Megan Walker, that's going to be part of that as well. So two really, serious, very important films for our community. So anybody that wants to see those and participate, you can just go on the website and get your tickets. I will say that these dark films aren't the only films that we're showing at the festival. So there's a lot of really interesting and fun films as well. And I will just mention, we have our cultural day every year, and this is South Asian Day. And we've got a fantastic group of eight business people that have sponsored the day. There's going to be food and dancing, and I think we even have one Bollywood feature and one that was featured at one of the film festivals, maybe I can't remember. There's too many of them. But that starts at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, both at Imagine Theater and at Wolf Performance Hall. So there's a whole week of festivities. So please come and support the film festival. It's a great event in our community, cultural event in our community. And this year particularly, we're showing two very pertinent films that will apply to London and some of the issues that we're struggling with here. So that's all.
Thank you, Member Branscombe. Okay, moving on to Executive Director Johansson's report.
So I will make it pretty quick. It has been another busy month. I can't believe we're back here already. It feels like we're just here. So I attended the Nova Giving Gala with the London Police Service and the Chief. I was very fortunate enough to have been invited to that. So it's a gala to help end gender-based violence in London, and that was a very special night, so thank you. I did also attend what I understand was the first raising of the flag at the London Police Service for the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. I attended the swearing-in ceremony as well. I agree, it's a very special day. It's really nice to see all the proud parents and welcome to all the members. Very happy to have you. I also attended a 2-day Canadian Association of Police Governance Capacity Building workshop. So the CAPG, they're currently putting together a national board member training framework, and it's done by researchers. They've put a few years into this, and they are currently hosting sessions across Canada to get inputs from boards on where the gaps are. The Ontario Association of Police Service Boards is also putting together a training framework for Ontario boards. Their executive director attended this to ensure that the training works together and isn't repetitive, and that there isn't too much, layering on, and that it's uniquely tailored to the individual provinces. I've also been working on this policy assessment. That's likely going to take up quite a bit of time moving forward, but I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor. So I appreciate you approving that moving forward. And there we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from our Executive Director Johansson with regards to the verbal report? Being done. Chief, you can close us out with the Chief's verbal.
Okay, well, Chair, through you, for the record, you were very emotional.
Now put that pen down.
Just a couple of updates. I was recently at city council as the board is fully aware, and I was there for, I think, 2 hours, answering questions from, city council. And a lot of questions and answers were discussed. And it was an opportunity to really answer questions that the councilors had and clarify a lot of communications that, what we realized is that if we don't communicate well, then people will make up their own narratives. So that's a commitment from our organization that we're going to try to communicate a lot better internally and externally. I think a lot of organizations are have the same viewpoint as us. But I'll just highlight a statistic that we shared that is very important. And one of the metrics was the crime severity index, and I've shared it with the board, but it's important that I highlight it again. The crime severity index came out this year by Stats Canada for the statistics for 2023. And that metric identified for the first time in 10 years, our city has dropped below the national aggregate crime severity. The first time in 10 years. We're still above the provincial average, but for the first time in 10 years, we actually dropped significantly. We dropped the greatest reduction in crime severity index in the country, and that was 14%. That has not really been celebrated, but that didn't happen by fluke. And I shared it with City Council, and I'll say it again. That's a result of the hard work of all of our members on the front lines, both sworn police officers and police professionals that we have in this organization that are working very hard day in and day out in all areas of our organization. It's a result of their work. And truly, we've discussed it as an executive as well. It's morale, and people are coming to work feeling supported. They're feeling supported by the board. They're feeling supported by the community. And we try to remind our members often, it's our job to deal with the frustrations and deal with the issues, but at the end of the day, it's about the community. So I just want to acknowledge the members and the people that we have in this organization that are working so hard to make the city safe. And I can't thank the senior leadership team that I have, the superintendents, the inspectors, the directors, and the team I have up here. I am privileged to have such a great team and great people that we are moving towards making this city safe. And the biggest thing with change, the most challenging piece with change management, changing an organization, is culture. And if you change, if you move in the right direction, that's the best promising piece. And we're moving in the right direction. And I'll just highlight as well, our code 1s, code 2s, and code 3 response times, for the first time in 4 and 5 years, we're actually reducing those times. There's a lot more work to do. There is a lot more work to do. We're nowhere near where we want to be, but we are moving in the right direction. And when we look back next year and after the 4-year plan, this board and this city is going to see that we truly have made this city a safe community. So I just want to highlight that, and I want to just thank everyone for their hard work. And then a couple of highlights and some updates. Homecoming. This year, as every year, is always a challenge for our members and keeping the community safe. I just want to acknowledge Paul Ladiseur from the city, his leadership, all the first responders in the city that came together to work with us. And I just want to mention Superintendent Ryan Scribbins, Staff Sergeant Jim McLaughlin, Sergeant Jeff Burke, Sergeant Julio and McNabb, and the 45 plus members of the public order unit that made sure that the community was safe during homecoming. And this year, there was a significant amount of students that took part. So they did a great job with keeping our city safe. And Member Goss, we're so pleased that you joined us in Ottawa. We got to get you some lessons on marching. But also just acknowledge the Paula Dominguez and the London Police Association for their support, and our pipes and drums and the color guard that really represented our organization really well. And the members and leadership that took time out of their day to come to Ottawa to really support our organization, but support the members and family members and the loved ones of the who unfortunately lost officers who died in line of duty. So we're hoping every year it's going to be a greater showing, and very happy with this year. But we are in a big challenge because it's the same time as homecoming all the time. Otherwise, I think we would have more members. Just a preliminary, update. We've been listening to the community. I've been speaking to the mayor. We're talking and we're developing a strategy to address the open drug use that is happening in the city. And this is a collaborative, multifaceted response that we're trying to put in place. We need to restore the quality of life for this community, and we can't do it alone. We need the community to do it, and all the great organizations that this community has know that it's coming. We're going to really look at a proper response and a measured response. So I will share this now. We know we're not going to rush our way out of this open drug use, but I will tell you that the position that we are looking at is when appropriate, we will arrest when appropriate. But we do not want that as our only response. I do not want our members on the front line to have the only responses to arrest. I want to make sure there's pathways to care, and there's alternative response to that. But there are times when it is going to be appropriate to arrest, and when it is appropriate to do so, we will be doing that. For the board's awareness, our special constables are on the road now. They're finished their training. We are going to be communicating some messaging out to the community. You'll see it through our corporate comms and some media releases for some awareness to the public. And again, our special constables will really help our frontline with lower level, not so risky police calls. And they're going to help with being visible in the community. So we're really excited about the special constable. And I'll also share this Friday with our commitment to truth and reconciliation and truly supporting our Indigenous communities that we border. Oneida Nation is celebrating their birthday, and they're having a inaugural road hockey tournament held in their community. So we will be supporting from our police service, and I share it in the event the community and the board want to play hockey too for a good cause.
How's your hockey stack up against your golf skills? No comment.
No comment.
Yeah.
No comment. And then just two quick updates through Deputy Chief Guilford and Deputy Chief McSween. You'll recall our ERU members were held at the Children's Hospital. A fantastic day for the kids and the staff and the community, but also fantastic for us to be a part of it. Halloween is coming up. We are going to be doing the same thing for those kids that can't trick or treat and those kids that are in care. But there's going to be a really cool twist. Our ERU members have agreed to dress up as superheroes. It's gonna be a really, really great day. So stay tuned. We'll send some information to the board, and I think the hospital and the kids are gonna really love that.
So you'll go to the hospital or the children come here? or-
We'll go to the hospital.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Wow.
Yeah, so we have talented individuals near you that are gonna do that again, and Deputy McSween said she's gonna do it with one hand.
Wonder Woman.
Must be a compliment, Mike.
There we go.
And then just one last highlight to share with the board, and we do a lot of great things for this community. Our organization is doing incredible work. We have members that really care. But one of the core functions of our organization is public safety and enforcement. And I just want to share on October 12th, just after midnight, 3 individuals attended a residence in London near Adelaide and Highbury area. 3 individuals went to the homeowners and the individuals living in the residence, and there was a dispute and a firearm was discharged. Those 3 individuals fled the scene. Nobody was injured, but those 3 individuals immediately fled the scene, and our 1 section officers, our frontline officers, responded as quickly as they can with a code 1 response, and they ended up locating the suspect vehicle and ultimately arrested all 3 individuals responsible for that. So I'm sharing this because 1, it wasn't random, it was a targeted incident. I'm not going to go more into the details, but I want to share our officers responding to the community when the community is calling for help. And a lot of people were involved with this, but I just want to highlight Constable Nathaniel McIntyre, Constable Adam Warby, and Constable Lucas Sims, who responded and made the first arrests and seized a loaded firearm on the individuals. So incredible work. Our Guns and Gangs unit took over the investigation. So you see there's a lot of investigators involved, and you're going to make sure that the investigation is continually investigated appropriately, because the investigation does not just stop because of arrest. So I'm happy to share that one highlight again of the incredible work that our officers are doing to keep the community safe. So subject to any questions, Chair, that's the Chief's verbal.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief with regards to the verbal? Member Goss.
More comment, but just one thing I wanted to note is that's incredible, because everything you listed there ties into the whole community trust component that you've been speaking about at the meeting. So I really thank you for sharing that, because I think that what we're seeing here is not just one-offs, we're seeing constant and consistent engagement with the community in various different forms. One thing I wanted to note, and just pass along to you as well, is that I've really personally seen, I've heard through members of my family and friends as well, a real presence of auxiliary officers out there, and they do such incredible work in a volunteer capacity. I have to say, I had a personal experience. My son was actually out with my mother, and they were raving about how kind and engaging this auxiliary officer was. Put him in the car, talk to him, and I think that that's so important when we really try to reinforce that the police are approachable. Well, an auxiliary is not a sworn officer, I understand. It's still the first introduction that many people have to the police service. So whether it was Citizens Academy I've been in, or whether it's at the swearing in ceremonies, we always see the auxiliary officers there doing a lot of work that needs to be done, and often they don't get thanked. So I just wanted to point out the fact that there's such good ambassadors for our service. I'm so happy to see them out there, and I've really seen a uptick in their appearance at whether it's at a community festival or a sale or what have you. So just kudos to that, because I think the more we can engage with the community, the more that community trust component is going to be built.
Thank you, Member Goss. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, Chief, thank you for the verbal report. I think that brings us to the end of the agenda there, friends. So our next meeting is in November, and looking for a motion to adjourn. She's closing. The shorter distance for the sound travel this year. All right, so Vice Chair Walker, seconded by Member Brunesco. Seeing that opposed, that motion is carried.
Thank you, Chair.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Yes.